Hello again, Sandwich. I'm Greg Anderson. Welcome to another edition of Meet the Candidates. I'm thrilled to continue to talk about the school committee race. There are two of those races. One is a race for the unexpired one-year term, and there are three people vying for that one seat. But then down the hall and take a right and take a left, now you got a different race for school committee, and that is two people vying for two seats for the 3-year term. Newcomer Tracy Goodwin and my guest, Susan Miller. Welcome, Susan. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Greg. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm thrilled to talk to you because I love to, we do have the incumbents in different races, and your husband, Mike, is one of them for select board. I'm interested in kind of what brings you back. This is your second or third?
Second.
Your second term. What brings you back to the race?
Well, you know, when I decided to run for office in 2020, I had great expectations of diving into curriculum and policy and budget and learning more about what was happening in the schools and supporting that in any way that I could. And then COVID came along. And so it was baptism by fire. On a moment's notice, a school that was used to dealing with students face-to-face, faculty and families and students had to turn on a dime. And school committee was in the position of working with the superintendent, working with the teachers and staff, faculty unions, the custodial unions, and then all the incredible uncertainties from the Department of Public Health, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, the federal, it was, as we all know, it was sheer chaos.
Yeah.
But it was incredibly rewarding to me that I was able to use some of my skills as a registered nurse, a nurse educator. My background was community mental health and emergency medicine. Pretty well versed in public health. So
you were almost the perfect person to be on the school.
Not perfect, but I had some confidence that I could be useful. Yeah. And that was at the same time learning about what it means to be a school committee member and what our job is.
So tell me, to expound on that, what is your job on the school committee? What is the function, if you will?
Well, I see it, and it is confirmed in policy and statute, that our job is to inform and act and support the district, primarily the students. The students are at the forefront of everything we do, but our primary responsibility is we hire and oversee, and the superintendent. We set policy, and we all have complete financial fiduciary responsibility over the budget. Those are our three major areas of responsibility, and we, along with the superintendent and our attorney, the district's attorney, meet with all the various union groups to negotiate contracts, terms and conditions of employment.
So when you're looking at the coming out of the pandemic, Pam Gould was the superintendent at that time. We now have Dr. Joe Maruschek. You have countless teachers that have gone through all of that. You have kind of weathered all of that. Where do we stand right now as it relates to kind of are we back on our feet? Are we rooted in, okay, the craziness is behind us, now we're going forward, or is there still a little bit of pandemic hangover in the school district?
Well, I will say, under Pam's leadership and the support of all the faculty and staff, we were able to get students back into the classroom 4 days a week as of September of 2020. Very few other districts were able to do that. So that was amazing. Our faculty also had to turn on a dime and completely learn how to support students, support families supporting students in a remote environment. So are we back to normal? In the sense that the kind of cycles of the school year have returned. We have sports, we have co-curriculars. I mean, the drama presentation, Les Miserables, was a celebration of how far the district has come and how wonderful it is. But there are remnants. There are students and families and teachers. I mean, they experienced trauma. There's no way to say it more gently. It affected learning. It affected what we call the social emotional well-being. It made it difficult for families. Everybody was anxious. People were blue, very blue.
Yeah.
And it was hard. So if you look at MCAS, if you look at some of the other indicators, we've dipped a bit since 2019. Not dramatically, some students more than others, but there are learning loss has occurred.
Yeah.
What I believe our job now and has been in the last year is to, with the support of funds from the state, lots of professional development, lots of wonderful teachers who are willing and staff who are willing to work individually with students. We're trying to find the teachers and staff are finding where the students are and putting into place strategies to help students move along. When will we cross the finish line? I'm not certain. I'm confident that, in a year or two, or as every class who was hit by 2020, because it'll be a long memory here.
Yes, definitely.
Will have the support, the strength, and feel competent and confident to move ahead and succeed wherever they need to be.
Let me ask you this. How do you think Dr. Joe Maruschek is doing?
Well, I was not on the search committee, but, from afar, he was my number one. And so when it came down to that, it's been a pleasure working with him, particularly boots on the ground. He determined a plan, an entry plan. And in order to develop that entry plan, he started on fact-finding mission. He spoke to constituents. He had coffees. He was in the library. He was here. He was there. He collected a lot of data. He looked at a lot of data that exists, test scores and various other indicators, policies that we have, documents that we have, collected an incredible amount of data. And he released an entry plan. And now he's beginning to put that, he will operationalize that in the next year. And primarily, he's looking at learning loss. He's looking at budgetary issues. He's looking at student retention. We've lost significant number of students over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And so looking at class sizes, looking at a number of different things so that we will get to where we need to be financially, but not sacrificing the quality of education and services that we're providing students. So he's looking for efficiencies. He's looking at various kinds of things. And so I think he hit the ground running, and I'm confident and looking forward to support him.
When you look at the over in the 1 year contested race for school committee, unexpired term, there is one candidate who is, I have not spoken with him, so I have read his information, but he kind of comes out swinging at Dr. Maruschek, and particularly talking about the equity and inclusion program and platform. And he says it's a political agenda, it's discriminatory, and this sense of needing to disrupt things in order to chart the district going in the right direction. And that's how he sees himself on this committee. But I'm not necessarily, though I am interested in what your thoughts are of him, but I don't want to take up your time talking about a candidate, but I am interested in sitting on a board where people are elected and you do have someone that's sitting to your right or to your left that you just vehemently disagree with, that the agendas are totally off. How do you see yourself working in that type of setting, if you will?
Well, I've had a few of these conversations with individuals over the last 3 years, and the way I look at it, I'm one of 7, and we make policy. And 3 years ago, we made policy and resolutions around not anything new, but we were reaffirming our position as a school committee and as a district that we want to be an open, welcoming community where our students feel safe, our families feel safe and comfortable and able to approach teachers, the superintendent, all the various leadership folk to talk about concerns about their children and about their learning and their experience in the school system. And that's where we are. And so I don't have a particular agenda. I just feel that equity is important and that equity is not necessarily equal. I'm five.
Explain that to me.
Well, there's kind of a classic illustration of this. Think about a fence in front of a baseball field. Think of a stockade fence. Mm-hmm. I'm 5'2". The person standing next to me trying to watch the game is 6'4". The person 6'4" can see over the fence. That person doesn't need a step. I'm 5'2". I'm looking at the stockade fencing unless I have a step ladder to get me up. That's equity. That's not equality. The ultimate objective is that we see the game and have a good time. Mm-hmm. We are able to do that because at 5'2", I need a step. At 6'4", he or she does not.
Right. How are you gauging how do you keep your finger on the pulse of not only that that very important initiative, but any other initiative? How do you keep your finger on the pulse so that when the gavel knocks and it's time for a meeting, that you are coming informed? You're a grandparent, you're a parent of kids that went through the school system. How do you keep your finger on the pulse of what's really important for parents?
Well, I talk to people. I'm in the supermarket. People come up to me and say, you're on the school committee, yada, yada, yada. So you listen there. I listen to my daughter. I listen to young people when I have an opportunity to talk with them. I read an awful lot. I read our local stuff and I read social media because that's another very good way to get a sense of what's going on, what's controversial, and how people are reacting to it. And there's something, and I don't respond to it, but I just observe it. And we talk about it. We talk about it not in a deliberative way, but just talking about we're hearing. We raise issues and questions as a result of what we're hearing and seeing, and raise them with the superintendent, the assistant superintendent. When we go through that, we can go through the superintendent and we can talk to a department head about a situation. We sit on subcommittees. We go to games. We go to dramatic presentations. We go to award ceremonies. You talk to people. You get a sense of the climate, and that's when we get it.
So what do you think give me 2 of what you think parents are most focused on right now with their kids being in school?
I think safety is one. I think they're not just physical safety, emotional safety as well. And I think having a quality education program so that their students can excel to the highest level of their potential.
Yeah.
That's what I think they want. They want communication. They want to know that the administration and their teachers know their child and are interested in helping them as individuals.
So let's unpack those two items. So on the topic of the curriculum, where do you see our strengths and where do you see areas that we need to improve on as it relates to the curriculum?
What should I say? I think our strong students do very well. I think students who have learning needs have lots of support to move forward to their highest level of potential. There's that middle, I think we offer wonderful AP courses. We offer an incredible program of studies to our high school students. We have caring, wonderful people at the Forestdale schools and whatever. Coming from my background as a community college educator and a registered nurse and administrator, one of the areas that I've talked with the new superintendent about is that it's that middle. It's those students who don't know they're going to be an engineer or a software developer or a nurse or whatever. They don't have a real sense of what they're going to be when they grow up. They don't have a real sense of what perhaps their aptitudes, interests, and abilities are. And a straight college prep AP curriculum doesn't necessarily provide that. But there are programs that are introduced in a number of different districts at the junior high level where students explore careers, if you will, not jobs, broad areas of careers to begin to look at what some of those jobs are that are out there, what their self-assessment of what their interests, what makes them excited and happy.
Yeah.
And then there are programs like Project Lead the Way, and that's one of them, which is exploratory, and then coursework supports the math, science, language arts that are needed in those areas. Yeah. And there's another program through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education called Innovation Pathways, where students can put together AP courses, other courses, and then courses that are more career focused in defined areas like technology, engineering. There's in life sciences, there's a number. So they can put together a curriculum, some of which earns college credit while they're in school.
Yeah.
So when they're at that point of the decision, a decision,
they're a little bit more informed.
They're more informed, and families are more informed. So I would like to see more of that in the school. I don't have a lot of area experience in elementary school, and I kind of leave that to those folks. But that's where my area of concern is.
So let's talk a little bit about the safety in the schools. The administration received this independent third-party assessment of the facilities, and I'm interested in, and we're probably got about another 5 minutes or so, but I could talk to you for an hour. So it's my challenge to keep myself limited here. But the assessment that was given, what's your takeaway from what you read or what you understand it to be?
Well, it was, from my perspective, very comprehensive, given the short amount of time. And just my observation and knowledge of the schools over the years, right on and very accurate. We haven't had, and COVID aside, 3 years of COVID, there has not been a lot of attention to the drills, the reunification drills, the ongoing professional development for all staff, so that how to act in a crisis, if there's ever a crisis, is automatic. And so all of that, there's some concerns about doors and lights and road exits and egress and entry, all very, very important. Another school resource officer, I'm not sure. I'll have to be convinced in terms of what that role would be at the other two schools. And certainly, I think I agree with second shift security in the schools when activities are happening in the schools.
So by second shift, you're trying, that's a kind of a clinical term.
Into the evening.
Yeah, so that's like a 3 to 11.
After school ends.
Okay. Do you feel our students are safe right now, Susan?
I think they are as safe as they could be, given the world that we're living in. You don't want everybody so hyper vigilant.
Yeah.
But they have to have, what does my husband, the police officer, talk about? Situational awareness.
Yeah.
That's the piece. Being aware of your surroundings. If you see something that doesn't look right about the building, ajar, people, whatever, it's that whole see something, say something.
Right.
Communication is key. So, I'd like to think we are safe. But even if and when we execute every intervention on that report, you can't get complacent. You can't get
Right. As we wrap up, enrollment is dropping. Expenses to run a business is increasing. Class sizes are small right now, but that's not necessarily sustainable. Budgets are tight. How can your voice, how can Susan Miller's voice help in righting all of those ships, if you will? Because those are big challenges that the district is facing right now.
Well, I think at this point, we're listening to the experts. The experts are the administrators and the teachers. And, there's no hard numbers yet, but the little ones need smaller. Students with certain needs need smaller. An AP course was, and I don't know that this is true, so don't quote me on it, but an AP course with 6 students in it, when a student could take a college course at the community college for 3 or 4 credits, that might be something to look at. There has to be some guidelines about how those decisions are made. And I think, given my experience as a college educator who has dealt with 10 years of continuing low enrollment, how do you build a smaller school that is of high excellence, high engagement, and with strong student retention? So that's what I think.
As you would think that's why people are going to Sturgis and they're going to everything. It's a much prettier world, and not to take anything away from them, but the enrollment is going down, and there is some secret sauce in Sandwich that we want to. My kids were not raised. They were not raised through the Sandwich schools. I didn't live here during that time. So I'm one of those taxpayers that wants a good school system because it's going to help my tax, my home values and all of that. But there is an audience in people like me who don't have kids in the school system where I need to feel invested as well.
Right.
Can we end on how you feel those voters who are going to be going to the polls and they're going to see your name there and they can circle it, particularly those voters in town who do not have kids in the school system? Why would I vote for you?
Well, because I care about the schools. I know about the schools, but as a senior citizen myself, living on a pension, I know that fiscal responsibility is critical. And I'm hearing that our superintendent does. And what I've heard, I like to hear. So I guess I go back to, if we are going to be a smaller school within a smaller budgetary framework, I still believe that we have to have first-class buildings, the best resources technologically that we can have, excellent teachers and staff, safe facilities. We still need that. Whether we have a $34 million budget or a $28 million budget. So how we get there, that's the difficult point.
Right.
But I do not believe that if you cut the money, if you do it carefully and with great intentionality, that this superintendent, working with the committee and his staff, will be able to find efficiencies, will be able to find ways to shave costs without compromising the quality of the education, and along the way, retain more students, which come with a per pupil cost that feeds right into the budget. If we build it, they will come. And we, just this season, incredible sports teams, incredible academic performances, what our students are doing in the performing arts. Why aren't they here? We need to work harder at that.
So I'll say this to you, Susan. I feel like a loser on two fronts. Living in this community, I feel like a loser in two ways because I feel like I missed out. Number one is not going into TD Garden for the last game for the hockey team. I would have loved to have been there. I didn't happen. The other one is Les Mis. I am hearing amazing things about that performance. And I heard about it, read about it, saw it on social media. And then I drove by and I thought, oh, I got to get in there. I want to go see it. And I'm traveling. But that's from an outsider's perspective to the school district. That says a lot when you've got that type of pride.
Yep. And, somebody said to me not long ago that why do I meaning a retired senior citizen, what direct value do I get from my tax dollars for students in the schools? And I said, in the United States, education is a value added. And we reap this down the road. And I said, Social Security, all of these things are under the gun.
Yeah.
We are preparing young people to move into the decision-making positions at all levels.
Yeah.
The education that we provide will ground them in the right thing to do.
Yeah. Let's end on that note. Great way to end. Susan, good luck with the election. I say to everybody, make sure you get out and vote. Susan, thank you for joining me. As I said, yes, get out and vote May 4th, or if you still have time, you can do a little early voting. But it is time to have your voice heard. And I appreciate all of the input that we're getting from these candidates because, boy, they're doing something I couldn't do, which is run for office. So thank you very much to you for watching. I'm Greg Anderson, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you, Greg.